I was down in the basement trying to unclog the air conditioner drain when I heard the phone ring. Natalie was washing dishes in the kitchen, so I thought she would answer the phone. I heard her lift it through the vent on the second floor. "Hello. Katie, great to hear from you. How much time has passed?" I didn't like Katie. She was Natalie's friend since high school, and I always had bad feelings towards her. Luckily, we moved from Lancaster shortly after we got married. I wish it was a little further. Yes, I thought so. 8 years really flew by quickly. What's happening? I didn't like how this conversation was going, but I only had one side of the conversation. "Katie, wait a second. Steve works downstairs in the basement. Let me go and close the door. I'll be right back." I heard Natalie hang up as she walked across the room to close the door. I crossed the basement and quickly picked up the wall extension phone. "Hello, Katie, I'm back. So, what were you going to tell me about?" "Nat, there's a medical device conference at the Lancaster Holiday in next weekend, and guess who's coming?" "Are you kidding? Will they both be there?" "They are both. They will arrive on Friday evening and stay all weekend." "How did you know that?" "Gerard called me this morning and was dying to see you. He asked me to call and see if I could get you to come to Lancaster for the weekend. It'll just be you, me, Gerard, and Martin." I held a rag on the end of the telephone receiver. I really wanted to jump over the tube and grab Katie by the neck. What the hell was she offering? "I don't know, Katie. If I can leave, I would love to come. I'll have to be a little distract Steve. As soon as I find out, I'll call you back." "You remember what a good time we had at the last convention when they were here, don't you, Natalie?" "You're damn right, I remember. Every time I make breakfast for the kids in the morning. I can't believe you had the nerve to name that kid Gerard." "Why not? Steve has no idea. He thinks that Gerard is his, even though they are nothing alike." Damn, this conversation was getting worse as it went on. I quickly went over everything in my head and found out that Natalie and Katie had an affair with these two guys 8 years ago, and Natalie ended up getting pregnant with Gerard. She passed off the child as mine and, naturally, never said anything about this affair. Now Natalie and Katie were planning to meet these guys again. "Katie, I'll call you back as soon as I can. If I can't get away for the night, I can at least get there for the day. It would be better than nothing." "Fine. Call me as soon as you find out." After we all hung up, I had some time to think. We had 3 children. Jenny and Lynn were in high school, and Gerard arrived about 8 years ago. The two girls are pretty and smart. They work hard in school and are both preparing for college. Gerard, on the other hand, is uninspired. He is not interested in studies or sports. I liked Gerard, even with his flaws. Natalie opened the basement door. "How are you doing there, Steve? Are you ready for some coffee?" "I'm almost finished. I'll get up now. I think I'm going to take a shower before I do anything else." After a long, hot shower, I sat in front of the TV with my family. I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. It was not a small mistake that Natalie made and regretted. It was something she did on purpose and planned to do again. I didn't know if I wanted to stop it and keep the status quo or if I wanted to fix it. If I was going to fix this, I had to figure out how. I felt really stupid because in 20 years of marriage, it had never even occurred to me that Natalie might be hooking up with someone. "Steve, I spoke with Katie from Lancaster today. She asked me to come and spend the weekend with her. Do you have any problems with this?" "No, not at all. I'll be busy at work, so as long as my parents can look after the kids, everything should be fine on one condition." "What is this?" "Be sure to take your cell phone in case you have any problems." "Fine. Thank you, darling. I'll take my cell phone with me and promise I won't have any problems. The Volvo station wagon doesn't break down, and I can take a lot of goodies in it for shopping. I'll probably go Friday morning and return Sunday evening. This is fine. I think it sounds tempting. Have fun." Natalie walked into the kitchen, and I overheard her calling Katie to confirm their plans for the weekend. She didn't seem at all concerned about the fact that she was cheating or that there might be consequences. I told her that I wanted to do some work on the computer before I went to bed and that I would get up later. It wasn't too hard to find the Lancaster East Coast Medical Equipment Dealers Conference website. Everything related to the conference was there. All displays were listed with a floor map. They had a list of lectures and seminars with times and locations. They had a list of all the participants, which included their hotel room numbers. Gerard Kramer and Martin Blank lived in room 411 from Friday to Monday. I found home addresses and phone numbers for both of them in Baltimore. I found a company that offered DNA tests by mail. Tests ranged from confirmation of paternity to probable national origin. Most tests cost less than $100. Samples could be taken at home and mailed along with a check or paid online. I filled out the application forms on the website and paid for the 4 paternity tests using my PayPal. After printing out the collection instructions, I gathered everything I needed to obtain the samples. I printed out the mailing label and prepared a padded envelope for priority mailing. I prepared several CD mailings and prepared a stack of blank CDs. Gerard and Martin's wives will probably want a copy of the evening's proceedings. I worked for a corporate security consulting firm. My work schedule was flexible, but since I had some free time, I just decided to take a week off. Another nice perk of the job was having a variety of equipment that I could use to gather information. By then, I had almost decided that the marriage was over. The fact that 8 years ago she had an affair and forced me to raise the child was bad, but the way she and Katie joked about making me look like a fool was too much. There was no way I could forgive this. Now she was doing it again. That should have ended it for good. The next day, I collected DNA samples from the children. They thought it was cool. Then I went to the bank and transferred most of my savings into a college trust fund for Jenny and Lynn, but left $12,000 in cash. I was able to set this up so that the trust was safe from my wife or a nosy divorce lawyer. I made arrangements to cancel all credit cards and checking accounts on Monday morning and opened a new account in my name only. I was going to lock the house so Natalie would have to find another place to stay. I was sure that she could find some legal way to get into the house, but I hoped that by then I would have taken care of some other matters. We could decide about our son, Gerard, later. Although he was not mine, I felt some responsibility for him. I stopped by Seymour Schlump's office. Seymour has been my lawyer since we came to Reading. He was fair and hard-working. I liked him. I explained the situation to him as best I could. He put pressure on me to make sure that we had no chance of reconciliation. In addition to the divorce proceedings, I asked him to contact Gerard Kramer and see if there was anything he could do about his son. I suggested he pay $500 monthly in retroactive child support or force him to take the child and raise him. His last option was to give up all rights to Gerard so I could arrange for his adoption. I was sure that he would agree to the latter. Seymour had everything he needed. I promised to send him photographs and audio recordings that he could use. He gave me an office email address and some pre-addressed mailings for paper materials. Betty Moore was the most obnoxious real estate agent I have ever met. There was very little that I liked about women, but she was a hard-working, dedicated worker. I gave her a list of our house and signed several powers of attorney for her. I told her that she would have to get all the signatures she needed from Natalie herself. She laughed and assured me that there would be no problem. I told her that the locksmith would give her a set of new keys. A wireless video camera disguised as a smoke detector was best suited for the job. I picked up 2 of them and captured 4 bugs. I also needed a clipboard, a set of company logo stickers, and 3 laptops. I placed an order on the company letterhead to replace a faulty smoke detector in room 411. I would fit the computers and all the equipment needed for recording into a regular suitcase. I took a small stepladder. The Holiday Inn had room 311 available, and I booked it under a different name for Friday only. There was wireless internet access. Walmart had the best deal on disposable cell phones. I took 2 of them, just in case. My mom and dad moved to an old farmhouse near Lebanon a few years ago. It was too big for the 2 of them, but it had always been Dad's dream. He had a large vegetable garden, chickens, and an orchard. Gerard loved going there. They were more than willing to put up with us as long as necessary. My dad liked Gerard, but he called him Jake. He said Gerard sounded like a sandwich salesman. Gerard seemed to like the name Jake more than his real name. A few years ago, Dad bought a big motorhome and a small Kia to haul around. He used it 3 times and lost interest. I told my dad to gas up the RV and get it ready. I knew the girls would be upset that they were leaving their friends for the summer. They had 1 more year of high school left before college and wanted to finish it off at a prep school in Vermont. Natalie didn't want to spend the money. Although they were 1 year apart in age, they were in the same class. Don't ask. I had no idea how Gerard would take it. I'll deal with the situation at school later. Now I had other problems. At least all the kids enjoyed being with my mom and dad. Natalie left early the next morning. She was in tears and thanked me again for allowing her to spend time with her friends. I told the kids to get ready for the trip and take enough stuff to last the entire summer. As I suspected, the girls were delighted. I told them to get brochures from Burlington Preparatory School, and suddenly everything looked rosy. They took all their school clothes with them just in case. Surprisingly, Gerard seems to be excited about the trip. Jenny walked up to me and just stood there. "What do you need, Jenny? Have you collected everything?" "Dad, I'm 17. I'm not a child anymore. Tell me what's going on. I'm not sure I understand what you mean. Are you having problems with your mom? I don't think this is something I want to discuss with you. If something was going on, your mother and I would try to hide it from you. Why don't you pack the rest of your things?" "No, Dad. I'm serious. This time, everything looks different. Lynn and I want to know what's going on. We believe we have a right to know." I didn't want to say anything to her about it, but I knew it would come out sooner or later. "Okay, at the moment, I'm not very happy with the relationship between your mother and me. Things are not going very well for us. I don't know for sure what exactly is wrong, but I know something is wrong. Is your mom cheating on you?" I was silent for a long time. "I'm not sure, but I think so." Jenny turned and screamed up the stairs. "You were right, Lynn. What does all of this mean?" "I'd rather let Lynn tell you." Lynn came down the stairs to meet Jenny and me. "Tell him, Lynn." "Should I do this?" "Yes. He knows, but you still have to tell him." Lynn looked down at her feet. Finally, she spoke. "About 4 months ago, I skipped school with one of the guys from my laboratory class. We stopped at home so I could buy some CDS. It was Wednesday, when Mom usually goes shopping. I think you were at work in Boston. As we walked down the street, we saw a gold SUV pull up in the driveway. That guy Floyd, who works with you, came out and his mom let him into the house. We sat outside for almost 2 hours until he came out. I waited another 10 minutes and entered the house. Mom was taking a shower, and the bed in your room was a mess. I left and went back to school for the rest of the day. When we returned home, she prepared dinner. The bed was made, and there was a stack of sheets in the dryer. I told Jenny, but she didn't believe me. For 30 seconds, no one said anything. "Thanks for telling me, girls. This is something I never wanted to hear, but it's good that you told me." Jenny noticed a tear in my eye. She grabbed Lynn's hand, and they walked upstairs without another word. Dad appeared just at the moment when the mechanic arrived. While the locks were being changed, I threw all of Natalie's clothes, shoes, and personal belongings into 150-liter trash bags. The bags almost completely filled the back of my car. After discussing it with the girls, I decided to stay late at work before heading to the conference. Centrex was a company that was founded locally but quickly expanded throughout the country. Their marketing people did an excellent job of identifying potential areas for expansion, but the company could not train people quickly enough to manage them, especially in management. They tried to get me to move to a new office and offered me several different positions in an attempt to get me interested. Natalie refused to move and didn't even want to discuss it. If I had stayed where I was, I would have remained in the same position forever. Moving would give me a promotion, more money, and some power. I went straight to the office of the company president. "Can Mr. Turcott spare me a few minutes?" I think he can fit you into his schedule. Wait a minute. I always liked Turcotte's secretary, and I think she felt the same about me. George Turcotte came out of his office and extended his hand to me. I hope you're here to tell me good news, Steve. Well, yes and no. Helen, bring coffee to the office and wait a little while with my calls. Okay, what can I do for you, Steve? First of all, I decided that I would like to be revised for one of the new management positions at the facility where you think I would be most useful. This is great news. If you don't have a preference, I certainly have a great spot that I'd like you to take. How would you feel about Anchorage? Believe it or not, it sounds perfect. Are you happy with the first week of September? I think it will work. I'll take care of all this personally on Monday. What's second? Well, I know it sounds strange, but I wish they could send Floyd Cooper there to work for me. George leaned back in his chair and began to chuckle. You found out, didn't you? I don't understand what you mean, George. I couldn't keep a straight face when I said that. Steve, no one wanted to tell you anything. I didn't like what was happening, but I didn't know what to do about it. If I fired Floyd, I was afraid you'd find out, and I didn't want that to happen. I decided it was best to try to keep it a secret. Unfortunately, Floyd Cooper has a long tongue. He started bragging about his affair with your wife. His secretary Tracy came to me and complained when Floyd started showing everyone the pictures of him and your wife that he had downloaded onto his computer. The legal department is working on something right now, but I kept them on a short leash, trying to protect you. Now that you know, I might just fire Floyd. It's a hell of a lot more practical than spending money on shipping him to Alaska so you can fire him there. You're right. I was hoping I could do a little more damage, but I guess revenge is a pretty bad method of control. I will agree with whatever you think is fair. George pressed the intercom button. Helen, put me through to Tracy Tolliver. After explaining to Tracy what we were doing, we went down to Floyd's office. Floyd was at work in Allentown. Tracy Tolliver was a very attractive woman. She was just under 30 and aging very well. The combination of brown hair and blue eyes has always fascinated me. She was only a few centimeters taller than 150 centimeters, but she carried herself like an Amazon. I never understood how Floyd ended up with the best secretary in the entire building. I later found out that she asked 3 times to be transferred to my office, but my secretary did not give up her position. You'll need this. She handed over 4 blank CDs. Look under Pending Accounts and click on Stoddard. Make one for yourself, one for your lawyer, one for our legal department, and one for Floyd's wife. I have mailings ready, but I need your lawyer's name. I was stunned by her promptness. This woman knew what she was doing and exactly how it should be done. Seymour Schlump. His office is on Franklin Street. George and I walked into Floyd's office while Tracy typed in the last address. There were 20 photographs of Floyd and Natalie suitable as evidence for a trial as evidence of infidelity. They were of poor quality and looked like they had been taken from a webcam. This also meant that Floyd probably had a full-length video somewhere. They weren't filmed in our bedroom. I was a little upset because every guy in the building probably saw what I was looking at. After checking them all, I simply copied the file to each of the blank CDs. Tracy poked her head into the room. Delete the whole damn file when you're done copying this crap. I gave Tracy 4 CDs. She put each of them in an envelope and returned one to me. Don't let your kids get it. I'll post these 3 on Monday morning. I told George about my plans at the Holiday Inn. He didn't like that the company interfered, but he went along with it. There was a work crew in the area on Monday, and he said he would have them come by and remove the cameras I was going to install. George and I shook hands. I thanked him, and he thanked me. I think it was a good meeting. The journey from Reading to Lancaster took about an hour. After parking in the back lot, I checked in, paid cash, and received the keys. The first thing I did was change into work clothes. The maid on the 4th floor was friendly enough. I showed her my work assignment, and since no one had checked into the room yet, she let me in. Installing the fake smoke detectors only took about 20 minutes. The room had 2 king-size beds. I was able to position the cameras to get a good shot of each bed and part of the room. Don't worry, I was a professional. I hoped that none of the residents would notice that they were in a room with 3 smoke detectors. I went back to the room, changed my clothes, and started setting up all my equipment. The pizza delivery guy arrived there about half an hour later. By 3 o'clock, everything was ready. Both cameras worked great. The pictures were clear even in normal room lighting. My laptop was turned on and working with a good broadband connection. I had one camera set to record every movement and the other I triggered manually. Damn it, I loved my job. I had one problem, I didn't know where Natalie was. I dialed her number on my cell phone. Hey, Steve, isn't this a great caller ID? Hello, Natalie. Just checking if everything is okay. The kids are with my parents, and I'm still at work. Where are you now? We're still at Katie's. Her husband, Ray, is going to babysit their children. Katie and I are going to spend the night at Melanie Thompson's house. There will be a couple of other girls from school there. This should be cool. Sounds funny. Take some pictures. In your dreams. Who is this guy, Ray, that Katie is with? I know him. I think yes. This is Ray Wilson. He was on the football team with you. Yes, exactly. I remember Ray. What does he look like? A little heavier, a little bald, and a little softer. It sounds like normal aging to me. Okay, Natalie, I'll let you go. Have fun and call if you have any problems. Love you. I love you back. Bye. I did remember Ray being nasty. If they were going to leave, that meant they would be here soon. I decided that they would use Natalie's car, which was fine with me. Around this time, some activity began in the room. Camera 1 began recording exactly as it was set up. There was a lot of idle chatter about the trip and other trifles. They were both pretty big guys. Gerard had dark hair and dark eyes, while Martin was slightly bald and looked pale. Both seemed to be in good shape. The bug detected Gerard's cell phone ringing. Hello, this is a stud farm. How can I help? They both enjoyed it immensely. I wondered how many times they had used this before. We're here, honey, and we can't wait to chat. What do you like? I assumed he was talking to Katie. Fine. This is the Outback. We'll meet you downstairs in about 2 minutes. At least they were going to feed them first. I sat there seething with anger about the whole thing. If I wasn't so into the mechanics of what I was doing, I'd probably be getting ready to stomp on someone. I immediately left the room and headed towards the stairs at the end of the corridor. Standing around the corner of the building, I could see Natalie and Katie waiting in the lobby. They were giggling like a couple of schoolgirls. A minute later, Gerard and Martin exited the elevator. Natalie immediately took Gerard's hand. The 4 of them went out and got into a black Mercedes. As they pulled away, I looked around the lot and found a Volvo parked in the back row. At least she tried to act a little more discreetly. After about 5 minutes, I was loading trash bags with her clothes and other items into the cabin. I was sure that she would return from the restaurant slightly tipsy and not notice anything in the car. I left a note on the driver's seat explaining that the locks had been changed in the house and that I was taking the children for an extended vacation. I drove to Taco Bell and fueled my body for the rest of the night. They get the ribs and I get the premium burrito. Life is just not fair. I returned to my room and waited for the inevitable. I was trying to think of a few more things I could do. I had about an hour until they returned to the room. I knew what would happen when they arrived. What I didn't know was what exactly I was going to do. Well, I've pretty much come to the conclusion that they weren't there to play canasta. I knew what was going to happen the rest of the evening, and I didn't like it. I thought Natalie and I had a good life. I assumed she was happy because she never complained or showed any signs of being unhappy at all. She fed me crap when Gerard was born. She said she was glad we had a boy because every man should have a son. I wondered if she had called Gerard's real father and congratulated him as soon as possible. Damn, that was depressing to think about. I regretted all the years I lived with this woman who could cheat on me out of the blue and feel absolutely no guilt about it. A woman who could force me to raise another man's child and thought it was funny. It was difficult to feel any compassion for her at this moment. I continued to prepare everything. I was probably overprepared, but it was the only chance I had, and I didn't want to miss anything. They burst into the room laughing and giggling. I couldn't believe I was watching my wife cheat. The cameras worked great. There was a break in room 411. I picked up a burner phone and dialed Baltimore. "Hello, Mrs. Kramer. This is Walter Perkins from the Lancaster Medical Devices Conference. Are you Gerard Kramer's wife?" "Yes, but he's not here now." "I know. Your husband and Mr. Blank received special recognition at the convention tonight. We would like to send you photos from the ceremony by email. Do you have an email account we could send them to?" "Certainly." "This is cool. Do you happen to have Martin Blanc's wife's email address so I can send the photos together?" "Certainly." "Fine. That's all I need. You will have the photos in a few minutes." Of course, she could monitor transmissions over the hotel's wireless network, but I didn't care because there was no connection to me. They had a break in their conversation in room 411. "So, Natalie, is your dear husband taking good care of my son for me?" "Of course, silly. 8 years have passed, and this idiot still has not realized that the child is not his. Steve lives in his own world. He wouldn't have been able to understand it if a letter had arrived in the mail. It would be nice if you sent me a birthday present or something like that from time to time." "Oh yeah, it would be cool. All he needs is to see something like this to give him a clue." Katie chimed in, "Damn it, I have 3 snotty kids running around the house, and my idiot is not the father of any of them. He's so busy sipping beer that he would never realize they weren't his." Everyone had a good laugh at poor Ray's expense, and I got a good sound clip. I got bored with all these activities and decided to put them off for the night. I went to the website and went into an unused room. After several recordings, I had a live broadcast from room 411, which led to the internet site. The internet broadcast went well, and the number of viewers exceeded 100. It took me about 20 minutes to gather everything to go out. I left the computer with the live feed for last. By that time, over 400 people were watching the show, and I'm sure several people were recording it for later distribution. I unplugged the last installation and called Ray Wilson. "Hey, Ray, are you sober?" "Yes." "Who is this?" "Just a friend, Ray. I want you to listen to something." I scrolled short audio clip, which I did with Katie. "Son of a bitch. Where did you take it?" "Ray, she's in room 411 at the Holiday Inn. There are 2 guys there, and their pretty big Ray didn't say another word, and I heard the phone go off. I had just finished loading the GPS when Ray jumped out of the Ford pickup and burst into the building. I was tired, but I enjoyed the ride back. The mobile home was completely ready. I gave my dad a set of keys to the new house. Mom went to Lancaster to visit Natalie at her parents' house, while Dad took some guys to our house and took out all the furniture and stuff. They had plenty of space to store things in the barn. Mom thought it would be interesting to hear Natalie's version. My parents had the number for one of the phones they threw away. I kept my cell phone, but planned to keep it turned off most of the time. Dad will take things back to Centerex on Monday. It was too late to leave, but I wanted to be away when Natalie realized what was happening. We had a reserved RV park near Hagerstown that would give us good access to the highway in the morning. The girls planned the trip for us. They did a pretty good job. The only thing I did was shorten the distance between stops because the gas was killing me. I was glad I brought a lot of cash with me. We had spent 3 days at Disney and were heading to Chattanooga to see the aquarium. Jenny asked if she could call her mom. "Hello, Mom. This is Jenny." "Yes. Just wanted to let you know that everything was okay." "Yes, yes, I know. We're all having a good time, even Gerard. We miss you too. We'll call every couple of days to let you know." "Fine. Tomorrow evening we leave for Orlando. We'll be at Disney for almost a week. We have park tickets for every day." I could not believe it. My daughter was setting up her mother. How cool is that? We stayed at the Orleans Hotel right in Disneyland. It will be so great. "Fine. We'll call you in a couple of days. Bye. Jenny, I can't believe you did this. It was truly disgusting. I know. Lynn and I thought it would be appropriate. You, of course, know that your mother is talking on the phone right now about a plane ticket and a room reservation. We thought she should do it. She still needs a vacation, Lynn interjected. Gerard watched the DVD and enjoyed his own company. 2 weeks later, Lynn called her mother. Natalie was very upset because she had been looking for us in Orlando for a whole week. Lynn said we stopped at Six Flags instead and tried to change the subject. Lynn and Jenny kept her on the phone for almost 20 minutes, listening to her rant. Finally, Jenny said she was sorry if she had misled her and will call back her in a couple of days. My demon girls giggled for another half hour after they hung up. The next week was hectic. We parked in the Smoky Mountains, and the kids were busy while I ran errands. Seymour delivered divorce papers to Natalie. She had no idea I was doing this until he arrived. He said she was having a seizure. He explained that she could hire a lawyer to fight the divorce and told her what she was up against. He had photos of her and Floyd, the group in room 411, and DNA results. Jenny and Lynn were mine, but Gerard wasn't. Natalie hired a lawyer, but in the end she still agreed to what Seymour suggested. Summer was quickly coming to an end. I had a chance to build good relationships with children. I spent a lot of time talking with Gerard. He liked it on the farm where Mom and Dad lived. I asked him if he would like to stay on the farm full-time, and he jumped at it. Dad really liked having him around, and I knew he would be happy to take him in. Seymour filed the adoption papers so that my parents would have the legal authority to provide for and care for him. The only thing Seymour didn't like doing was forcing Natalie to agree to it. Natalie didn't know it, but Dad had also legally changed his name from Gerard to Jake. The girls fell in love with the Burlington school. It was a beautiful late summer in Vermont. We spent a few days getting them settled, and then Jake and I headed back to the Keystone State. I contacted Mr. Turcotte and learned that everything was ready for my move to Alaska. Tracy was already on site and had set up a temporary office. This was good news. She also had an apartment for me and a company car ready for my arrival. I left the mobile home with my dad to get rid of it. 6 months later, things finally worked out. The divorce was final. The girls did well in school and both received scholarships to James Madison University in Virginia. They were happy and excited to be alone. They haven't heard from Natalie except for a few phone calls. Jake's performance at school improved, and he became deeply involved in his new hobby of raising chickens. One day, Natalie came to visit him. She was driving an old Ford Escort and told Dad she had to sell the Volvo to pay divorce costs. It was complete bullshit because I ended up paying both lawyers. While she was there, Natalie insisted on calling Jake Gerard. Jake corrected her every time and eventually left. Natalie continued to take it out on my father about how disgusting it was to take away a child's birthright. Dad said it was too easy a chance, so he turned it down and just left with Jake. Jake's mother never came to see him again. She received $11,000 from the sale of the house. She and Katie decided to celebrate their divorce and went to Las Vegas. All the money was gone in 4 days. I don't know what Natalie is doing now or where she lives. Maybe she moved to Baltimore. Needless to say, I love Alaska. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.